We are going to do a presentation on natural disasters. Now, natural disasters are when any calamitous occurrence happens generated by a natural rather than human-driven phenomena that produces great loss of life or destruction of property and infrastructure. Now, the first image we have here, figure 1, is the regression. And we'll get back to that later, but first off, we're going to start with the background. Now, there's often news coverage about natural disasters in developing countries. Could this be because natural disasters are more likely to occur in developing countries? The authors listed found that there was a relationship between the wealth of countries and the exposure to natural hazards. This extends to that research of countries and exposures to natural disasters. Now, my research questions are developing countries less likely to suffer from natural disasters? And my second research question is the level of country development more predictive when assessing by country rather than grouped by continent? And the methods I use for this is object analysis in natural disasters. Now, the study population includes all the disasters recorded in the EM data from 2000 onwards. Specifically, the data includes what type of variable the disaster is, which country the disaster occurred in, and the geographic region, continent the disaster took place. For the first research question, my dependent variable is the number of natural disasters recorded, and the independent variable is the level of development, developed versus developing countries. The level of development was taken from the world data, and this website follows the IMF definition, and according to the IMF definition, there are 152 developing countries with a current population of around 6.8 billion people. At around 85.54%, and this is a considerable percentage of the world's population. It includes the whole of Central and South America, the whole of Africa, and almost all Asian countries, and numerous other island states. With this data, frequency distribution for natural disasters was generated. The descriptive statistics were also done. The number of natural disasters versus the level of development was analyzed via Poisson regression. Additionally, a multi-level Poisson regression was taken on natural disasters versus development via software data. Now, as figure 1 is the research question 1. Are developing countries likely to suffer from natural disasters? And from this data, you can see that there were 191 observations, and the developing versus developed variable, the coefficient was minus 0.06. And that's a very small number, which indicates that developing countries are less likely to have natural disasters by a very small margin than developing countries. And for the second figure on research question number 2, are the level of country development more predictive when assessed by country rather than grouped by continent? For this one, you can see that there are the same number of observations, and the coefficient, in this case the IRR, is 1.098, and when grouped with the group variable continent, the IRR is 0.3204, and that is a very small number. And as you can see from the figure number 3, this is a map of disaster count by country. And you can see that the Philippines, China, and India, and Bangladesh have a high number of natural disasters, where for developing countries, the only country that's developed that has a high number of natural disasters is the United States. And for figure 4, the count of disasters by disaster type, you can see all the various different types of natural disasters. Now, volcanic activity had the least amount of frequency, compared to all the other natural disasters, and you can see that storm and flood had were the highest number of natural disasters recorded, and you can see in between those there is drought, earthquake, and extreme temperature, which those had the middle amount of natural disasters. And second to last, there is landslides, which also had a considerable amount of natural disasters. And for the results, for the regression on the disaster count on developing versus developed countries, the Poisson regression resulted in a negative coefficient of minus 0.062. This value is highly significant to the 0.0001 level. This indicates that developing nations are predictive of the disaster count, showing that developing countries are more likely to experience natural disasters than developing countries. However, the small coefficient indicates that the effect size is small. The multi-step Poisson regression for research question 2 and figure 2 was also run holding continent constant through the IRR analysis, and the IRR was 1.0698 for developing level of a country with a p-value of 0. The IRR for the continent was 0.3704. This indicates the level of country development, explains more variance when continent is not held constant. All models had similar alkaline information criterion results, thus they had a similar goodness of fit. And in conclusion, developing countries are more likely to suffer from natural disasters than developed nations. Disaster count is more predictive when looking at individual countries rather than continents. And for figure 5, you can see that developing countries have a much higher frequency of natural disasters than developed countries, with developing countries having a frequency of 148 natural disasters recorded since 2000, and developed countries having a frequency of only 43 natural disasters recorded since 2000, and most of those 43 occur only in the United States. This is my presentation on natural disasters. And if you have any questions, please state them and I will give you back the best response.